So you wanted to talk about over-under segment here. And this is a good one, guys. I mean, this one I think you guys are going to love. How many Brad Holmes draft day trades are we going to see in 2024? Now, I didn't go and look at all of the history, the last 3 seasons to see how many trades he's done. I don't know if you have that information. But last year, let's see, he traded off a 6, and then he traded again for Broderick Martin. I think, and then also moved up to grab Brian Branch. And did he move around to grab Hendon Hooker? I don't think he did. I think that was part of the initial trade. So there was at least 3, in the first 5 rounds.
He did a couple of slide up, slide downs that it wasn't necessarily for a pick.
Mm-hmm. So how many did he have in 23?
I think he had 4.
4.
Either 4 or 5. Yep.
And do you know how many he had in 22?
I don't. But that's why I set the over-under at 4.5. Because I figure he's got to do some wheeling and dealing this year because he doesn't have the war chest of picks this year, whether he moves up or moves back.
Or both, or multiple times, right? So
both happen.
Right. So first question would be, how many Brad Holmes draft day trades, man, try to say that 4 times fast. How many Brad Holmes draft day trades are we going to see? You got the over-under at 4.5. I think that I'm going to go with, man, if he trades back, I think that if he trades back initially out of 29, we'll see 3 trades. If he trades up, I think we'll see 2 trades. That's it. So that's where I'm going to be with it. If he trades back initially, we'll see 3. If he trades up, we'll see 2. So I'm gonna go on the the side of caution here. I'm going to say 2.
I'm going to say he goes nuts this year and he does 5.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. See, I think on day 3, it's going to be rounds 4 through 7. And I think he is going to do some wheeling and dealing with this year's picks and next year's picks. He's going to try to set it up so he has more picks next year and maybe not so many picks this year. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that he actually uses 2025 and 2026 draft capital to try to spread out the hit. I think that there's a rule, and maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought that in the NFL, you can only have a maximum of, I think, 14 or 12 picks in the draft. I think there's a max that you can have, number 1. And number 2, I think you can only go out 2 seasons past the current year for draft capital trades. So you could trade up to, 2026 draft capital, but you couldn't go to 2027. I think that those are pretty hardline rules with the NFL. And I'll touch back on that. So don't quote me on it, but I want to say that that's pretty definitive. But I can't remember everything. I know that there's something that exists there. So second question is, and you guys go ahead in the chat. How many do you guys think that we're going to have? Let me do a poll question. But while I'm putting that together, the next over-under is how many running backs are going to be taken in the first round. And then I want to follow that up with how many are going to be taken in the first 3 rounds. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So somebody in the chat, let's see here. It's, G. John Dusage.
Yeah, John Dusage, yep.
Okay. He says, does trading the 4th away count as a trade already? Well, I would say no, because it's not on draft weekend.
Yeah, it's got to be draft day. So it's got to be on any one of those 3 days.
Yeah. Good question, though.
So what's your answer here? So what's your answer on the running back? So how many running backs are going to be taken in the first round, and then how many are going to be taken in the first 3 rounds?
I'm going to say 0 in the first round. But you have to remember, are people going to copy what the Lions did last year in taking Gibbs in the first round and thinking the Lions are crazy and giving them an F for a draft grade, and now they're all giving them an A for a draft grade, and it wasn't a reach after all with Gibbs, So is anybody going to start emulating what the Lions do in the draft? That would be the only wild card for me, but I don't think any of them in the first round. Maybe we get one of those guys in the 2nd or 3rd, and I say Blake Corum goes by the 3rd.
So on the running back question here, I don't have any first round grades on any running backs at all. Matter of fact, Blake Corum is my second running back in the draft. But I do think that he's got more of that grit factor. I know that word is way overplayed, but the guy's a bulldog. Blake Corum, he's a complete animal. And I think when you look at guys that really love football and play it at a high level, Blake is going to give you every ounce of blood he has on the field. And that's the one thing that, not watching him as a fan of the Wolverines, that I appreciated about his style of play. And for that reason, he could be the first running back taken off the board. So I don't have any first round grades. So obviously I'm going to say 0 in the first round. I just don't think it makes sense to really follow in the footsteps of the Lions. Last year, we had, a couple of first round grades on running backs for the first time in a long time. I actually called the Lions to take Jahmyr Gibbs. I think it was like March 6th or something like that in a video that I thought that was going to be our first pick, and it was. This year, I think it's either Blake Corum or Jonathan Brooks that are going to come off the board first, and it'll be middle of the second round. So I think that there could be potentially 2 taken in the first 3 rounds. Maybe 3, but I think 2 taken in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. 1 or 2 in the first 3 rounds.
All right, so let's move on to the next one, receivers. And we'll stick to the first round on this. So over under, how many receivers are going to be taken in the first round?
The over under is at 6.5, and I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under on that one.
So if I'm looking at my board here, I've got Marvin Harrison, Rome, Malik.
Yep.
Let's see, who else do I have?
Kiddo to Florida State.
Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell. So I've got 5 with an outside chance that I think that Adonai Mitchell and Ladd McConkey could probably trade places going to Kansas City. And Troy Franklin is an intriguing prospect. I don't know that Keon Coleman really is going to break the first round. Xavier Legette, another intriguing prospect. But again, I think that, if you're a team that really wants a wide receiver, obviously you're going to take one in the first round. If you're thinking of trying to move around in the second, you're going to take one in the first. I just don't think that these guys are going to last, much longer. Like Xavier Legette, Jermaine Burton, who I really like. Even Keon Coleman, even though I'm not real high on him, I think that a lot of these guys are going to disappear fast. I think the second round is going to be loaded with wide receivers, probably at the top of the round. But I'm going to go with 5. So I'm going to go with the under. I'm going to go with 5.
Yep. Me too. I think it's 4. Just because, and like kids like the Worthy kid that was super fast, he's so tiny that I think he's going to slip a bit, where a lot of people have him going to Kansas City at the end of the first round. I've seen him going to us at the end of the first round,
Who was that?
I think, the Worthy kid.
Oh, yeah, because of the speed and the new kickoff rules and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was so fast. And I like him and all, but he's just too small for me.
Yeah, he's a little bit bigger. Yeah, he's a little bit thin. Doesn't mean that he can't add some weight, but he's pretty thin to take in the first round for me anyway. Obviously we don't know what these GMs are going to do, and it doesn't mean that there hasn't been guys that have been smaller or light that haven't done well in the NFL, because they have. So next up is quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks are going to be taken in the first round? What's the over under?
Let me find that real quick. That is at 4.5 total quarterbacks selected in the first round.
You gotta love Vegas. Why I hate the halves? Like, it should just be a solid number.
I'm going to say every year during the draft, there's 1 or 2 positions that there's a run on them in the first round, and all these teams feel like all of a sudden, oh, we better get one of these because they're going to run out. So I'm going to say quarterbacks over 4.5 in the first round.
To answer that statement you just made, it usually, in my opinion, from what I've noticed, it works like this. When the first tackle comes off the board, there's a run of 2 or 3 or 4 tackles, or 2 or 3 at least. When the first wide receiver comes off the board, there's a run of 2 or 3 wide receivers. They're going to go defensive end. Same thing. It's like once you kind of, pop the top, you just can't stop, so to speak. They just kind of roll off. And especially in the second round, I think you see it even more so that once you get, that position opened up, teams start to panic a little bit, and they're like, oh, we've got to get our guy because here they go. And they're right, because it happens consistently. So quarterbacks, I'm going to go with the under on this, expecting that potentially, so that would put me at 4, not 5. I think potentially, if this happens with Minnesota and they decide to wait, then I don't know of another team outside of Denver that really needs a quarterback in the first round.
Yep.
So if the Vikings wait and Denver doesn't, then you've got 4. If the Vikings don't wait and Denver decides to grab one, then you've got 5. So I think it's going to top out at 5. I don't think that there's 5 first round grades, but if you need a quarterback, you need a quarterback.
What about this scenario though? The Vikings have 2 first round picks. They take their offensive or defensive lineman in with the first pick. They get to their second pick, and a guy they didn't think was still going to be there is there, and it's their guy that they were really debating taking with their first pick, but now he's there with their second pick, and it changes their plan.
Yeah, that of course that can happen. But when I look at the board, I see Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels more than likely being locks, assuming that everyone is cool with Jaden Daniels' elbow. It's just bursitis. It has a really bad picture, but it's really just some bursitis that he's got going on there. It's really, really swollen. But I think that J.J. McCarthy is working his way up to being one of the top 3 quarterbacks that are taken. And right now, he could go anywhere except for the Bears. I think the Bears are stuck in making their bad decision on Caleb Williams, and
There's
the rest
four.
of the rest of the teams, to follow suit here. The Vikings really are going to have to love Penix or
or
Nix.
Bo Nix.
They're going to have
Okay.
to love them,
And
and I don't know that you can't wait till the second round to do that.
But what if someone wants to come up and talk to, say, one of their favorite trade partners, the Lions,
Mhm.
and get Penix or Bo Nix at 29? They get them on the cheaper side of the first round, but they get that fifth-year option.
Yeah, no, that's a great opportunity, and that's where it depends on what pick they're willing to trade us. I would say that Brad Holmes probably wouldn't make that deal unless we're staying in the top 40, or at least I would hope that he would stay in the top 36. Because after the 36th pick, I think that things are going to be pretty slim for what you're really trying to address from immediate impact players. Not to say that you can't find really good quality guys, because you can, but it just starts to get a little bit, darker, that these guys might not work out in the first season. We've been pretty lucky. So moving on to the corners. How many corners? What's the over under?
Let's look here. Got to get back to my little sheet here. So 5.5 for cornerbacks taken in the first round.
5.5 is the over under?
Yeah, it's really high. I think under. I say 3 or 4.
Where can I bet that? Because I don't see that happening. Yeah, I'm definitely taking the under. I've got Quinton Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, more than likely Nate Wiggins, and Kool-Aid. I mean, so I see 4 that all have pretty good first round grades. I really don't know who else you're going to throw in there that really makes sense in the first round, unless someone just, again, if you're going best player available, TJ Tampa would be the 5th one. But you said 5.5, right?
Yeah, 5.5. So that means they think it's going to be either 6 or 5.
Yeah, no, I think it's 5 or less.
Yeah,
without a doubt, it's 5 or less, and I would err on the caution of being 4. All right, last one, offensive linemen, specifically tackles. What do we got for over under?
Oh, let's see. So offensive linemen, 9.5.
Whoa, definitely on the under.
Yes, way on the under. But I think Vegas is thinking that there's always such a big run on those in the first round. Historically, when people start taking offensive tackles and offensive guards and centers, there's a run on them.
So I'm going to put this poll in. So I'm going to go 4 or 5. What was the over under?
9.5 for offensive linemen, which is really, really high for any position. I think that's the highest of any position was 9.5.
Let me make sure I got the wax out of my ears. 9.5.
9.5. Yes.
9.5. So I'm on the under, and here's who I think is going to go in the first round. Let me pull it up here. So we've got Joe Alt, obviously.
Yep.
Talis Fuaga, Troy Fontenot, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Fashanu, that's 5. Graham Barton, that's 6. JC Latham, that's 7. Tyler Guyton, that's 8. And but then I think you've got Kingsley, that's 9, and that's where it ends. If Amarius Mims slips into the first round, I would be surprised, but it could potentially happen. But I want to say that I think that we're going to see a couple more defensive players pop off. I mean, when you look at the over-under so far, I mean, you've got a ton of offensive players going in this first round.